Hello, everyone. Welcome to 10 Minutes Astrology Podcast, the most easy way to learn astrology with professional astrologer. I'm Rod Chang.
I am Alejo Lopez.
Hello, Alejo. So last week we were talking about angular house, and they are the first house, seventh house, fourth house, and 10th house. Like you, when I counted, I was like, am I right?
Yeah.
So today we're going to the another set. So today we're going to second house, eighth house, fifth house, and 11. So they are called.
Yes.
Do they have a special name?
They're called succedent houses because they will succeed. Well, it's a long story. I think why they're called that is a bit complicated. I mean, they will succeed. They will become the first house and the seventh house. They will become angular. That's why they're called succedent houses.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the second house and the eighth house are opposite, and the fifth house and 11th house are opposite. So, well, should we start with second house then?
Yeah, let's do second and eighth, and then 5, 11. Is that okay?
Okay. Yep. Perfect.
All right. So, so the second house. When we refer to the second house, we usually talk about the idea of resources. So basically, it's the resources you have or how you make resources to do whatever you want to do. So that's why sometimes it's easily related to finances and money, let's say. And I think it's a good point. I mean, the planets in the second house may describe a relationship to money and finances, but resources are more than that. It's not just money. Resources could be your body, actually. And resources could also be other kind of resources, like you have like some if you have some planet there,
ability.
Ability, yeah, some kind of skill or ability could also be a resource, right? And then there's also this idea of the second house, the idea of, if we relate the second house with money and how you invest money and where you invest money, where you put your money, I mean, where you spend money more than invest, where you want to spend money, then that may also be talking about what you find worth it, what you find valuable of being spent money on that. So it may also talk about something about your system of values and worth. And sometimes I would even say self-worth and self-esteem. You might see it there in the second house. Yes. Yeah. So to kind of wrap it up, it's about resources, both physical and psychological. So not only money. It's about your system of values and your idea of self-worth and self-esteem. Yes. So, what do you think?
Yes, I think it's about that most people will remember money, but it's quite important you remind us it's not just about the physical world and material world, but it is also about, any kind of skill and your idea about the money and the value and the resource. I think that's perfect, So I think last time we talked about Venus. Similar things there. So
yeah.
I think all this area. If you want to talk about money, you will look at it in your chart. You will look at the Venus. You will look at your second house and some other sign or place related to money. So how about its opposition, the right opposite of the second house?
Good. So right opposite. It's right opposite the second house. So we're going to come to opposite meanings. So if in the second house we have our own system of values and our own sense of worth, in the eighth house, it's the worth, the sense of value or worth that we get from others. So it's the system of values and the system, the resources that come from others, people. And when we go to resources that come from other people, of course, we have these very specific traditional meanings like inheritances and that kind of things. It's what you inherit from your family. It's like the resources that are not from your family, or it could also be from relationships and stuff, right? But basically, so those resources that are not your own, but that come from other. And when you talk about inheritances, I think it's also, again, important not to think only about financial inheritance. It's not only about money, but it's only about psychological inheritance, spiritual inheritance. So the kind of relationships you do will be expressed perhaps in the seventh house. And in the eighth house, it will express what you get from these relationships, and not only physically what you get, not only money wise what you get, but also spiritual wise and emotionally wise. And then also it's kind of the system of values, perhaps, or the system of worth that you meet through others, and that's usually quite hidden. It's quite deep. So sometimes we say that the eighth house is about the intimacy of the relationship, what we cannot see in the relationship. The same way that the first house is what we see of the person, and the second house is kind of what's supporting the system of values and worth that it's supporting what we see in the first house. The same thing happens with the seventh and the eighth. So in the seventh house is we meet other people, and in the eighth house is the system of values and worth that it's supporting other people, which is kind of invisible. So sometimes we talk about intimacy, what happens, you know, when you meet a couple, you never know what's really happening inside. You only see their public image, right?
Yes.
And this idea of the eighth house is what's happening, what's hidden, what's happening behind closed doors. Yes. And with what's hidden come other meanings, like what society actually tries to hide. So sometimes in the eighth house we find kind of taboo issues or hidden stuff. Yes.
Yes. Yes. So like taboo, I think one thing is like the biggest taboo for all living creature, including human being, is death. And traditionally, this theme, death, are assigned to the eighth house. So that's why usually some astrologer, when they talk about the eighth house, they just like feel like it's not good luck, or is a little bit of worry about it, and people even don't like to talk about it. That's the meaning of a taboo. That's the meaning of a taboo.
Yeah, that's the meaning of a taboo. But I think it's very important to symbolize what death is. Again, let's not only be literal. So death can be literal. Of course, death is real. I mean, of course. But then we go through death a lot of times in our lives, right? When we go from child to teenager, when we go from teenager to adult, when we get married, we go from single to being married. When we get divorced, then we go from being married to being divorced. So we go through this process of death constantly.
Yes, constantly. Yes, like a finish of a stage of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that is like a death, because you have to cut off, you have to become a new you, then the old you have to die.
Exactly.
That's quite interesting. But how about another interesting things or taboo people don't usually talk about? Well, especially from where I'm from, Asian society, we don't want to talk about this sex.
Yeah, I think sex is also a taboo. I think people pretend to talk about sex, so they pretend to be liberated and they talk a lot about sex. But I think there is a sense of taboo or something forbidden around sex, because there's still, I think, well, this is my perception, my perception. I think there are still some taboos about sex. There are still some judgmental attitudes about sex. Like, okay, now we kind of accept there are gay people around the world, but a lot of people still struggle to accept, I don't know, different gender identities, or certain sexual practices are still looked up like, oh, you're a bit sick if you like that. So there's still a bit of a taboo there, I think. And also, if we think about the psychological, well, we're going a bit over, I'm going off topic perhaps, but, if you think about the psychological reactions, the overemphasizing of a theme usually means that it's something that it's hard to cope with, right?
Okay. I like that idea.
Yeah, our society is overemphasizing sexuality, I think, which means there is some uncomfort in relating with sexuality.
Yeah.
So we pretend that we're okay. So so sexuality is all over the place now.
Yeah.
It's like, we're cool, but it's actually an overcompensation, I think.
It's true. So we talk about the eighth house and we end up with six, but I'm opening the next set with sex too. I will start with fifth house. Do you know in traditional astrology, this is where present sex.
Yeah.
The fifth house, and I like this a little bit more. Maybe it's because like nowadays people describe sex as a fun.
Yeah, I think, it should. Sex should be pleasurable. Come on.
Yeah. So the fifth house usually, well, let's go to the normal version and I will come back to sex, maybe.
Okay.
If I didn't
You named sex, now everybody's awake. We're like,
yes.
let's talk about that.
I know, yes. So usually the fifth house, you myself, I couldn't come down. Okay, now, okay. Fifth house is pleasure. It's the things we like, it's the people we like, is the things how we express our enjoy. but it's also related to creativity. But in the traditional way, in the traditional fifth house, also related to pregnancy, children, and sex, and the love affair, entertainment. So it is quite interesting to see the fifth house. There's a lot of fun here. It's like it's like entertainment, it's like performing, it's like creativity. And sport and game are all in the fifth house because this is their entertainment. That's how they enjoy it. I want to mention one thing. Some people, especially in Asia, what I realize is they talking about when they talking about the gambling belong to fifth house. And some people have a little bit misunderstanding about the investment. Because they say, oh, when you do the kind of high risk investment like a stock market or commodity, then they say that's like gambling. Oh, so that belongs to fifth house. I don't really agree with that, to be honest. Let me be firm. No, for me, that is not fifth house. That could be second house, could be eighth house, could be even traditionally 10th house. I don't go there. But definitely not fifth house, because fifth house, you have fun. Are you going to
I think that's the key. Yeah.
Are you going to send your money to stock market, say, hey guys, I have fun, I buy something like a 10 Microsoft? No, you don't have fun like that. Okay, so remember the key word of fifth house: pleasure, fun, creativity, things you like, people you like, your lover, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and entertainment. I think that is all belong to fifth house. And the sex, for people, for I think that's because children, related to children, the important.
And also, I think this idea of sex as fun, sex as enjoying, sex as pleasure.
Yes,
I think sex in the eighth house is sex as taboo, sex as the idea of transformation, perhaps. Yeah, but I mean, the fifth house is more like sex is fun, sex gives you pleasure.
To be honest, yes, it is. Yeah. So let's come to the. I think I have to mention once because it is related to 11th house. So another, some people say the personal goal is related to fifth house, because when you come to the 11th house, that's totally different because the right opposite. If the fifth house is what you express yourself, how you show yourself, you love what you like, then when it comes to the 11th house, that's the community, that's a group of people. So that's kind of, with 11th house, usually we describe as a friendship, your friend, but it's also your relationship with group. Interestingly, the traditional astrology, we're talking about the hope and wish. It's quite interesting, but nowadays we kind of, we still talk about it, but not really using it. But very interesting is like the goal for group of people, our common goal. What kind of goal we share? That's in the 11th house. So that
sometimes I think of your hopes as a society, what you hope society to be.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yes, I totally forget that. So your hope for society and like how you see the future. That's a little bit
something like that. Yeah, how you hope life to be in the future, which is not the same like the 10th house. 10th house is more about goals. So it's more like, okay, I have a plan, I have to do this. The 11th house has a kind of a dreamy nature in that sense. It's like what I hope. What I would like life to be. I
hope I hope the future. I wish future like this and like that. It's very interesting. So today, how are we going to go do a little bit practice? Should we choose a chart?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
Let's go to a chart.
Yeah, I remember last week you mentioned about Freud as the Sun in seventh. So we go back to check. Here we are. So
here it is. So yes, so Freud has Sun in the 7th house.
Yes.
And that's what he did. He found himself through, and he also had this idea of you may heal yourself by one-to-one encounters with other people and expressing who you are. Yes.
Yeah. So, but how about his moon? Interesting. We didn't really we just pick up random chart, but he got the moon in 8th house.
Okay, good. So the moon, we said it's where you feel safe, right? And where also in the end, because it's what makes you feel safe, it's also what gives you great skills in the future. It's like an instinct nature for you, right? So in the eighth house, we were talking so much about the eighth house as sex. There is this idea of perhaps being able or feeling comfortable in dealing with taboo issues. I'm thinking of his book Totem and Taboo now.
Yeah.
Also, perhaps he feels comfortable in deepening this idea of depths with the eighth house. So in deepening his the way he nurtures others, he takes care from others by dealing with these taboo issues. I'm thinking, you know, he was the one who said the children have sexuality, and people were like, "Oh, this is disgusting." And he might have felt very comfortable in that position. He might have felt like that's home for him. For him, it's home to go into the depths, to question the system of values, the system of worth that other people were bringing into the equation. And then also, it might felt like a natural ability or natural skill to talk about things that are hidden, to talk about transformation. And actually, the moon is how you nurture others. So actually, how he nurture others is by dealing with all of these taboos, by dealing with what's hidden.
Yes, that is beautiful way. Especially, I think quite interesting. Most people, if they know the Freud, they know the psychology, and the most, if you know a little bit more, like you talking about the sexuality, and with like a so-called with a mouse or with something, it's quite interesting. It's all in that moon in 8th house. So, but I also notice he has Mars in 11th. Should we talk about it, or
no? They have to think about it.
Okay. So now it's you, our audience, dear audience. So today we talk about the 2nd house, 8th house of Thebes, and 11th. Then I notice Floyd has the Mars in 11th house in the 3 degree of Libra in 11th house. What do you think about it? You know, Mars in 11th house, and we think about, just remember what we talk about 11th house is with a friend, with a group, and with a future, and with wish. How you put them together. It'll be
with the ideas of Mars,
yes, it'll be very interesting to see how you think. What do you think? And if you have any opinion want to share with us, please leave the message here or join our group at 10 Minutes Astrology on Facebook. So you can share your idea and we can discuss about this, you know, Mars in 11th house. So this is our today's episode about 2nd house, 8th house, 5th house, and 11th house. I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you have any question or you want to share your opinion or you have feedback, please join our Facebook group 10 Minutes Astrology or send us email to aoa.inquiry@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at AOAUK, and you can find Alejo on his Instagram
at Liminal Cosmos.
At Liminal Cosmos. So the next week we are going to talk about the last set of the house, right, Alejo?
Yes, the last ones, which are the 3rd, the 9th, the 6th, and the 12th.
Correct. Yes. We jump in. We have back. Are we? Yeah. So next week we will talk about the 3rd house and the 9th house and 6th house and 12th house. And well, our school have a little event on the 14th of May, 1 p.m. UK time. We invite Lynn Bell, astrologer Lynn Bell, to talk about when Jupiter is too much, astrology and addiction. Lynn Bell is a very, very famous and great psychological astrologer. And each time when she brings a subject related to astrology, it's like there's a reach and the depths in astrology. And I really enjoy her talk. So this time I invite her to talk about, you know, addiction. And then she say, you know, when Jupiter is too much, there's a relationship between, you know, addiction too. So if you are interested, please contact us. See you next week. Stay in tune.
See you. Bye-bye.